Number one for the Arizona Cardinals and number one in your hearts finally speaks. What does it mean for this year? What does it mean for the future? And what does it mean about the stability of the Arizona Cardinals? We'll talk about all that, plus a special announcement on this edition of Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Of Locked On Cardinals, Alex Clancy, Bo Brock. Follow him at Bob Brack. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Please follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. You can also check me out on Thursdays on the Locked On NFL Thursday podcast with Tyler Rowlands from Tic Tac Titans. Kyler Murray speaks. What does it mean for now? What does it mean for the future? And we've got some news to discuss in the final segment that we'll save until then. So, Bo, I'm going to let you go P's and Q's here. Overview-wise, Kyler Murray spoke at a charity location where he had donated $10,000 to a local charity. And our boy Cam Cox from 12 News interviewed him, among others, in a light scrum, as it were, asking him questions that, were really to the point. And from all the silence that we've seen from Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury, aside from their combine interview, and Kyler Murray pretty much talking through his agent through this point of the offseason, he answered very candidly. He didn't have any fat on his answers. And he pretty much said, chill the hell out. I'm an Arizona Cardinal.
Yeah, I mean, pretty succinctly put, I'm an Arizona Cardinal. He's letting his agent do the speaking for him, handle the business side of things. And this is something that Alex and I nailed. I mean, we said that as far as publicly the organization, Kyler Murray, they're going to play nice in the press. But there's going to be other, avenues where it's going to be a lot of mudslinging. We've seen that as far as the reports, as far as how Kyler Murray handled himself in the playoff game, his leadership, as far as on Kyler Murray's behalf, it's Eric Burkhart, his statements on Twitter. I mean, it's ugly outside of the actual two entities, the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray said everything that you wanted to hear your franchise quarterback say. He even said, as far as the social media scrub, he said that was mostly just due to his age and how people handled their social media. And he was just scrubbing it, and he scrubbed everything but a few pictures. And, that's true. But also you had the report that he was remorseful about that. So, one can't be true if the other is. So you just kind of have to figure out what went wrong here as far as how he approached wanting this extension. Things aren't going to change as far as this relationship until there's pen put to paper on a new extension. Like this isn't the cure all. This is just, hey, we heard from the source finally, and it's nice, but it doesn't absolve of all the issues that the Cardinals and Kyler Murray, all the things that have popped up over the last months.
Yeah, and I think Kyler Murray is the least of the Cardinals roster issues right now. So, with Kyler Murray, he's not going to request a trade, even though I think that he should have, right when Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim got extended for very different reasons than a contract dispute. There were reports about the Cardinals chatting with Malik Willis, standout quarterback from Liberty. We're going to talk about that in the second segment, if there's any credence to that. What it means right now is nothing. You'd hope that he'd say this. If he wasn't taking questions, you could read into it a little bit more. But this is a young quarterback learning the media game every time he's in front of the camera. I remember first interviews that we saw of him, especially after he got drafted. We're like, does this dude want to be here? This is a learning curve. Not everybody's Patrick Mahomes. Not everybody is incredible in interviews like Lamar Jackson is. Lamar Jackson's always a quote. Such a smart dude, so introspective. It's different. Kyler's a quiet cat. All right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't absolve him. Okay. Sure. It doesn't absolve him from standing in front of a camera and saying, I'm a Cardinal earlier. I get that. But when it comes down to it, when it comes down to all of this, nobody owes anybody anything besides their relationship. That's what, and we don't know a whole lot about their relationship behind closed doors. We don't know if Kyler's going to get an extension. We're going to talk about that as well. Like, does this kind of placate the necessity to give him a contract extension right now because of what he said yesterday? We don't know. So there's still stuff up in the air as much as there was before we heard from him. It's nice to hear this, but it also doesn't cement anything for the future, right?
It kind of gives some people that a little bit of comfort. I mean, his quotes are, "I'm an Arizona Cardinal. I've done nothing but give my all to the Cardinals. I will continue to do that. And I'm not really worried about my future as a Cardinal." I mean, that should provide some comfort. And the fact that he's I don't know where you are as far as if you trust Eric Burkhart, the former agent of Johnny Manziel and agent currently of Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, likes to, this to play out in the public forum. But Kyler Murray's confident that he can get a deal done. Look, this is something that you should expect that if he's not worried about it, they can figure something out. It also, if he says he's going to give his all, that probably means, he'll show up for the OTAs that are going to come down in the next couple of months after the draft. We'll be interested to kind of see how that plays out. But, the Arizona Cardinals, I like the fact, and I've always appreciated that, sure, he's soft-spoken, but he's not a guy that could win a press conference like Josh Rosen. He can actually back it up. He's more about playing the game. He's more about, I believe him more from his social post, his statement after all this stuff about how he's not about, what was it, the nonsense or the noise, something like that. I believe him when he says that. I think that, but at the same time, his agent thinks he needs to get paid now. It makes sense for him to get paid now because this team is coming off an 11-win season. You and I both know, like, the road in 2022 is as tough as it's ever been during the Kyler Murray era. It would be smart of him to get paid now. And I understand that business part of this whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, and again, going back to what I said a few minutes ago, there's one more wide receiver off the board. Marquez Valdes-Scantling signed with the Chiefs yesterday. Like, we're starting to see if you take this at face value, that's fantastic because that shows some real resolve for a team that has done almost nothing during free agency to bolster this team. Sure, I get it, okay? Zach Ertz, James Conner, that's great. They were running unopposed. Steve Keim is very good at that when you give him a little extra cake to stay in town, okay? I know they both wanted to be here. That doesn't mean that this ecosystem is free agent friendly for those that have played elsewhere. We don't know one way or the other. What we do know is Kyler Murray said the right things. He checked all the boxes. He placated the nonsense as much as he could, answering a few questions by Cam Cox from 12 News and others. This is not a step backwards, and that's a step forward for the Cardinals. That's where we kind of have to look at it as of now. Now, looking for the future, the Cardinals talked to Malik Willis, okay? Carolina has that pick. We're starting to see these randoms of, Baker Mayfield's going to go to Carolina, and then they're going to trade Carolina's going to trade him and 2 first-round picks of the Cardinals for Kyler Murray. Chill, relax. Kyler Murray's a Cardinal. What does this mean for the future for the roster outside of him and his contract negotiations? Is it placated again because of what he said yesterday to reporters? We'll talk about that next, more in depth. BetOnline.net. It's that time of year again. We had the Sweet 16 Part 1 yesterday. We got Sweet 16 Part 2 tonight. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the number one source for all your sports betting needs. I can feel it. Needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. Per usual, BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Go to the website or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. That Will Ferrell, just a few episodes, Kenny Powers with the hair, beautiful thing.
Was his name Ashley? His first name was Ashley, right? He was a car salesman. He was a car, yeah.
And I mean, if you go down the rabbit hole of the outtakes from those parts of Kenny Powers, just like, how do you keep a straight face with those two just comedic geniuses going back and forth, probably trying to make each other laugh?
Yeah. I mean, this is the second consecutive show that we've talked about a Danny McBride series, and Eastbound and Down is all time.
Yeah, it is. It is. Kenny Powers. Alex Clancy, Bobrook. Oh, we're back. Locked On Cardinals. Please make sure to check out Locked On NFL Monday through Friday. After checking out Locked On Cardinals, your second listen, hosts from across Locked On NFL platforms, doing one each and every day for the national spots. Less than 30 minutes, you're going to get all the information you need. Great content. Kyler Murray spoke. That's fantastic. We've got some news to break at the final segment here. Before then, what does this mean for the future of Kyler Murray? Like, does this now give Stevie Keim a little bit more, flag on the rubber band that could snap back at any point if he waits too long? Or is it still 100% status quo from before Kyler said any of this?
I think it's the status quo. I think this is just kind of business as usual for the NFL as far as these extensions go. This one just is playing out a little bit more publicly. You've got more of a quarterback that grew up in the social media age. His agent likes to utilize it, and it's just more on display. And it's unfortunate because I think it's creating some ill will from a fan base that should celebrate a quarterback like Kyler Murray. There's a lot of detractors already now for Kyler Murray. I don't understand it. I know they want to see more because they've seen what the potential is. And, it's in now back-to-back seasons, we've seen it fall short twice. I think the Arizona Cardinals, their fan base, they want to see him, reach that potential. And until he does, there's going to be people that are going to say he's too short, as far as the leadership skills, the sidelines, just how he holds himself and conducts himself on the sidelines. That's going to be under a microscope. Whether or not either you're damned if you do give him the extension. Why'd you give him all that money? You're damned if you don't. What are we doing? Why haven't we paid Kyler Murray? It's just he's become quick. I mean, would you say this? Would you agree to this, that he has replaced Cliff Kingsbury as the most polarizing figure of the franchise?
I mean, not to me, but yes. I mean, because it's just wild. Like in Arizona, I don't know, the Stockholm Syndrome is real about, the Bidwells and Steve Keim can do no wrong. They should always have their job. Everything, it's not their fault. It's the player's fault. Like, I don't understand it. I've only lived here 12 years. I've been here for the majority of the winning seasons in the history of the Cardinals organization since they moved to Arizona. Okay? So I've seen it. All right. Chris Collinsworth famously said the Cardinals were the worst team to ever make the Super Bowl. I don't know if that's still the case with Rex Grossman-led Bears, but it is polarizing, and I don't know why. And on top of that, moving forward, looking towards the future, the serendipitous way that things could kind of come to fruition from yesterday through Steve Keim's decisions to sign players are Steve Keim sees what Kyler said and says, you did your part, now let me do mine. Mm-hmm. In a more swift manner than what we've seen Night of the Living Dead over the last 10 days. You know?
So Kyler Murray, his roster bonus kicked in on Sunday. A couple of the Arizona Cardinals roster bonuses kicked in on Sunday, including Budda Baker's all $11 million of his contract. So as far as like cap flexibility, there's not a lot left on this roster.
Except for one person you tweeted out about.
Well, that and Kyler Murray in extension. I mean, Eric Burkhardt had mentioned in his statement that they'd come to the Cardinals with a cap saving, at least for the 2022 season deal for Kyler. So there's that. And then DJ Humphries is the highest paid, or as far as has the highest cap hit for the Arizona Cardinals at over $19 million. And he's in his final year of his deal. So there's no extra years that you can, push base salary into a bonus. So it would have to come in the form of an extension for, and DJ Humphries is 28 years old. And if you believe in him this year, why don't you believe him in the season after that? So that's probably the most likely place you can create cap space because they've already restructured with DeAndre Hopkins, maybe J.J. Watt's an option, but you're running out of options. You're running out of players available. If you want a Stephon Gilmore, if you want to trade for a James Bradbury, if you want to trade for a Devontae Parker, those guys you have to create cap space for. So there's only a couple other options for that.
Yeah, and if I know Steve Keim and he does a restructure, DJ Humphries, if he plays as well as he did last year or better, he's a franchise tag target for sure in 2023, depending on what the number is. But you're right. I mean, DJ Humphries has been consistent, and consistency from an offensive lineman is key. He's been healthy the last 2 seasons. He and Rodney Hudson on the left side are, they're the staple of his offensive line now, and they're heavily trusted to protect Kyler Murray. What they're going to do with the guard spot with Justin Pugh taking a pay cut to stay, are they going to draft an interior offensive lineman like Zion Johnson in the first round, like I am pleading the court for them to do? I don't know, but I think an extension for DJ Humphries, it seems natural to do it. Add an extra 2 years, spread it out, give him a signing bonus, and open up a little extra cap space to be able to do a little bit more of what you want this offseason. Yeah, and with Kyler Murray, I just do I think they should extend him now? Absolutely. Should he get 10 years like Patrick Mahomes? No, because that's going to end up not working out. Like, it was great after they won the Super Bowl. Let's pay the kid. Let's do all this stuff. Absolutely. I'm good with 4 years and exactly what Deshaun Watson got when he got his contract extension. That's the number, 40. Every quarterback that is next for a contract extension does not need to make more than the last quarterback that got a contract extension. And I don't think he should be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Let's take Aaron Rodgers out of it. He shouldn't get more than Patrick Mahomes. He shouldn't get more than what Lamar Jackson's going to get. He shouldn't get more, maybe as much as Dak Prescott got, I guess. But Dallas is always overpaying players and then regretting it later. Everybody they pay, they regret later.
He was the passing yards champion in 2020 before he had to sit out the season, Deshaun Watson. There's a playoff victory there. So, the resume is a little bit more impressive. Now, I mean, obviously the off the field stuff was pretty incredible that he got 230 guaranteed, which is crazy.
Wow.
As far as Aaron Rodgers, he's 38 years. He's back-to-back league MVP. The Packers felt like they didn't have any other options. So, there's that leverage. But yeah, I think that the Arizona Cardinals can figure something out to where, the cap hit each and every season, they could probably finagle it to where it's not 40. You can figure out the roster. I mean, the bonuses and all that stuff and keep yourself in a decent spot to where he's not absorbing, 18, 19% of the cap. That would just it'd be tough. Maybe keep it around, 15, 16, 17%. So, but the Arizona Cardinals, we're not going to know what it's going to look like because we've seen you had the Deshaun Watson deal on Friday right after the trade, and then you had the Matthew Stafford. He gets 160 with 135 guaranteed over 4 years. It's just like these things vary. I mean, you have Kirk Cousins who signed the first fully guaranteed deal a couple of years ago. We thought that was going to be the new quarterback contract, and that hasn't exactly stuck. So we'll see. It could look several different ways.
Yeah, and what I think Kirk was like 3 for 83, 3 for 85, something 87, something like that. Yeah, all guaranteed. Tom Brady was doing that for 10 years. It was just different. Like they just did it differently. It looked, and they were able to sign players. We talk about that ad nauseum here. If you pay a quarterback over $40 million, you don't win a Super Bowl. Just that's what happens. Once you pay a quarterback $40 million, you don't win a Super Bowl. It hasn't happened ever. Oh, Tom Brady.
How much did the Rams have invested in the quarterback position last year?
It was less
than 40. Had to be close.
I don't think Stafford got it. Was one of the last ends. Okay. I mean, it's close, but it's like.
Because they had a ton of dead cap from Goff, didn't they?
Yeah. So invested in and paying somebody a new deal. Like that was it. Rarely do you get quarterbacks that get swapped and then one win a damn Super Bowl after. I still can't believe the Rams won the Super Bowl.
What about the Malik Willis thing real quick?
Oh, yeah, that's right. So Malik Willis, stand out. Apparently he throws the ball really far when nobody's defending him or the wide receiver, which is incredible. Good
Zach
for him.
Wilson did that last year, so did Justin Fields.
Marcus Russell threw the ball 75 yards in the air or whatever. Now that we're poking fun, but he seems to be the odds-on favorite to be the number one quarterback taken in the 2022 draft. Cardinals had a little convo with him reportedly. Can we just squash this quickly so we don't have to talk about this anymore?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're doing their due diligence, but honestly, I think they're playing the game. It's like if Eric Burkhardt's going to go off on Twitter, we're going to have this little smokescreen conversation with the top prospect at the quarterback position in the 2022 draft. It's just gamesmanship.
Well, yeah, and it's like let's just play this silly pants fun time here where we talked about this at the end of yesterday's podcast. If Carolina offers the Cardinals 3 firsts and 2 seconds for Kyler Murray, you got to have a conversation.
Sure.
You got to have a conversation. You're right, doing your due diligence, but like You got to have a conversation. Every player in the NFL has a trade package that's unturned downable, save maybe 3 quarterbacks. You know, like if Miami offered 4 first-round picks for Aaron Rodgers right now and a restructure to make the times to make it work, he'd be Miami Dolphin. Like it's, and I don't know if he could sign the extension or whatever. Maybe that's a bad example, but like we'd have to have a conversation. I don't think that conversation is going to happen. Let's just squash it and move the hell on. We have way more pressing things to discuss. Next segment's going to be a different one. It's going to be a special one. And we'll talk about that next. Built Bar. We've talked about Built Bar for the last handful of years. I love Built Bar. These protein bars are covered in 100% chocolate. They don't taste like chalk. They don't taste like the side of a building. They don't taste like bark. They taste like candy. True story. There were taste tests done from certain candy bars and Built Bars. Built Bars won pretty much in a landslide with, 130 calories instead of 300 plus for a candy bar, 4 grams of sugar instead of 30, 4 net carbs, 17 grams of protein for Built Bar. It's unmatched. Okay, they've got these puffs now too that are protein-infused marshmallow that are covered in chocolate, and they've still got 17 grams of protein, 4, 5, 6 grams of sugar. Low-calorie, high-protein, high fiber. What more do you want from something that tastes good and is good for you? Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, final segment here. I'm going to take you back quickly to 2018 in the summer. Bo Brock and I were both working at Fox Sports 910 here in Phoenix, and we decided to start a podcast called Week Takes. True story. We were in the production room right next to the studio. We just turned it on and we just started talking. And Bo was terrible per usual. I led the show. I mean, it's pretty much been that ever since. And then, I had done Locked On Cardinals for about a year at that point. I started the 2017 season. And I had,
sorry to those listeners.
Not great.
The listener.
Yeah, about 25 of you. Thank you. Ed Romero, I remember you. And I asked Bo to come on. I think it was in September. Or it was in August. It was in September. So the season had just started. And I'm like, hey, dude, why don't you just start doing this with me full time? I had him on a couple times. And, he and I hit it off. Like, we'd been ready. We worked together for a while before that. And I was like, let's just do this full time. I remember the first game we sat next to each other in the press box, and we told this story before, was the Arizona Cardinals hosting the Washington professional football team. Alex Smith, Adrian Peterson's first game, and the Cardinals were on the field offensively for 5 minutes with Sam Bradford under center in the first half. Looked at each other.
Season opener. Yeah.
We're like, what is going on? Oh, they have Mike Glennon at least. Oh, they drafted Josh Rosen. This is going to be a great year. Remember, David Johnson scored a garbage time touchdown because I drafted him in the first round, my fantasy football draft. That was the start. That was 857 episodes ago together. This is our 858th, and it will be our last. Bo is going to be taking a new opportunity elsewhere, and we just wanted to take a few minutes here in the final segment to kind of just reminisce a little bit about, 2018 was a relegated NFL. Like, that team should have been relegated. Steve Wilkes, Steve Keim. Steve Wilkes had no chance to succeed here. Mike McCoy was fired after a Thursday night football game against the Broncos when Josh Rosen, I think, had 5 turnovers personally. It was a bad year, and ever since they drafted Kyler Murray, even though, Bo, who do we say they should have drafted number 1 overall? Nick Bosa.
Wow.
And
you're gonna air that dirty laundry out.
Well, I mean, the mock draft is in the ether, So, but ever since then, it's just been this ongoing just climb up the ladder to not only relevancy, but fun, even more fun to talk about this team because it was positive. And, it's been a hell of a journey. And what were some of your favorite moments? So we did this, we have a couple favorite moments, whether it be on the show or moments with the Arizona Cardinals that we shared together. Why don't you go first?
Yeah, I mean, first off, the 2018 season is just probably the true testament to this podcast. And our friendship. And it was just two guys wanting to talk ball on some microphones. And both of us were craving this for our careers and to get in front of, in front of the mics and have the option to host and co-host and kind of just shoot the S for a while for 30 minutes a day. We got that. And it turned to the organization turning things around and us, benefiting from that. And we couldn't have done it without every single person that tunes in and watches and listens. And as far as things that stand out to me, the DeAndre Hopkins trade, that the first day really of free agency or the tampering period, it went down where we did holy F on the called each other, couldn't believe it. Because, getting rid of David Johnson's contract was something we talked about leading up to that. And then it returned DeAndre Hopkins. And then the JJ Watt, we had a full episode in the can. And then here's Alex saying, Bo, Cardinals just signed JJ Watt. So we just had to crumple up that entire 35-minute episode and do a full, completely full of energy, electric podcast about the Cardinals really continuing to turn things around.
Yeah, those two are for me because I remember calling you. I was driving on the 202 here in Phoenix with the DeAndre Hopkins thing. It's like, because initially it was just Cardinals trade David Johnson to Houston. That was the initial report,
right?
And we're like, okay, good. I wonder if the Cardinals could probably have to eat 15 of the 20 million to get rid of David Johnson, the last 20 mil of his contract, and then DeAndre Hopkins would return. And there was a lot of expletives that we can't repeat here. The Hail Murray. This was my best. Like, when you're young, you like to spoil surprises when you know something and others don't. And then you have friends who still try to spoil TV shows because they've watched it before you. They try to play this Nostradamus like they don't already have the answers to the test. This was the toughest 15 seconds of my life because Bo's on DirecTV.
Oh, wow.
I'm on local cable. I saw what happened. Like, normally we'd be on the phone doing this together. I'm like, I waited for him to call me. And then I'd already thrown up my larynx at that point. So I pretty much had to do it through sign language. But there have been some really special moments that we've got to experience here. And I think another one, not even an honorable mention, like the people that join us during halftime shows, those numbers have skyrocketed. That was Bo's idea initially to do that. And, yeah, man. This has been a hell of a ride. And people I've told two friends who aren't in this business. They're like, well, you guys going to be enemies now? I'm like, we talk more crap to each other on the same podcast. Like where he's going, it's going to get better.
Right.
Like he's still one of my best friends. Love the hell out of him. And this podcast is going to get so much better with him gone. You are welcome.
Wow.
You are welcome. No, it's been a true pleasure. And the radio world is so small, even though it seems so big. And it's like to meet somebody that I became really close with and shared this time with for 4 seasons, 4 seasons, 8, 9, 20, 4 seasons. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a delight the whole time.
Well, thank you, man. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss cutting it up with you on a daily basis. We will have the back and forth still on social media and on our texts. But I will say, everything about this podcast, we don't agree on a lot as far as the content, but we wanted this to be genuine, organic. Our vision for the podcast is exactly what it's turned into. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of. And, Alex is a big part of that. The listeners, the viewers are a big part of that. And it's just been a thrill for me to be able to crack the mic on a daily basis and talk Cardinals football with everybody. So thank you to everybody. I'm still going to be covering the Cardinals. Just follow along on social media at Bob Rack, see what I'm up to next. But, to close this chapter, it's certainly bittersweet. I'm always going to be a Locked On Cards fan because we grew this thing together, and Locked On Network fan. What everybody's doing over here is incredible, and they continue to be a rocket ship to the moon. So it doesn't change any feeling I have towards everybody involved. So thank you to Alex. Thank you to everybody that listens and watches. Ross Jackson, David Locke, just to name a few. And there's a cast of characters behind the scenes that deserve to be noticed as well. I just don't have enough time to do it.
Yeah, to the moon, buddy. Alex Clancy, Bo Brock, one last time signing off. I will be talking to you solo on Monday. We'll talk to you then.